Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Take Two Podcast, episode 290 here at the TTP. My name is Brian. I'm your host, a Take Two Podcast, all of your Hollywood news, TV, movie reviews, and of course, my Take Two episode 290. I don't know why that just sounds like a cool number. Maybe because it's like 300 is within sight. Like we can see 300. It's close. It's 10 away. Here we go. We're getting there. But let's get through 290 first before we get ahead of ourselves. Today's show, we have one review. We'll be wrapping up the series that was Ozark. Phenomenal series. Absolutely loved it, top to bottom. We'll be giving a overview of the entire series overall, overview of Season 4, Part 2. Already gave the Part 1 review earlier on a few eps ago, a couple of months ago when that dropped. But we'll be wrapping all of that up a little bit later, so that may be a little bit longer of a review, but we'll break quite a few things down there. We have the box office to chit-chat about, casting couch, DC, Marvel, Hollywood news, and then, of course, our going forward. Thank you guys for joining here at Take Two Podcast. If you want more Take Two Podcasts, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, follow all of those pages and the YouTube while you're at it, at Take Two Podcast. Very easy to find across the board. And, of course, you can text or leave a voicemail, 667-365-8253. We can chat all day, all night. Text, voicemail. I won't answer the phone. I do promise that. Guys, in your feed right now, you still have the realm from Take Two. The Realm of Take Two. That's actually the title of the show. That's in your feed at the moment. Roy does a phenomenal job with our monthly spin-off show. Check that out. That just dropped last weekend, but it is still available to you. And the only other thing that I request is a rating and review. If you do not mind, 5-star rating and review really does help out Take Two Podcast. Okay, let's start things off. Let's just get rocking and rolling right on into it, and let's start things off with the box office. Your box office results for the week. I think we hit some good weather across the country. I think we hit some nice weather finally across the land because nobody went to the movies. Not a lot of cash was made this weekend. But The Bad Guys pulls out the one, the only film to be in more than 4,000 theaters, 4,042 theaters. It only dropped 32%. From a week 1 to week 2. So that's solid money for them. Puts them over $44 million. Actually, funnily enough, at this moment, their number is $44,444,400. So I really want someone just to go real quick, spend $44 on The Bad Guys, just to get a whole bunch of fours leading into Wednesday, May the 4th. Hey, do that. Someone out there. Anywho, well, actually, I'm recording right now. And it's May. Nope, disregard. Forget my math. All right, $16 million goes to The Bad Guys. Congrats to them. They win the weekend. Sonic the Hedgehog Part 2 comes in at $11 million. That's, well, I was going to say back-to-back animated, but Sonic is a hybrid. I don't know. Speaking of hybrids, Fantastic Beasts, The Secrets of Dumbledore comes in third place with $8 million. They're sitting at 79 domestic. You know they want to get 100. Warner Brothers is dying just to grab $100 million. I don't know, man. You need the 21. You need the 20-point thing. That's only 8. 3 weeks of 8. Maybe they're not going to stick with the 8. That's going to be rough. They're going to need that. They will. They'll leave it in there for 8 to 9 weeks. They'll get it. They'll get it eventually. They just let it chip away at like 1 for a little bit. Either way. Okay, The Northman comes in fourth place, $6 million. Everything Everywhere. Everything Everywhere All at Once at $5.5 million. The Lost City is still just a shy under $4 million, and The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent just a shyer of $4 million. 3.935 for Lost City, 3.925. So $10,000, man, was the difference between Unbearable Weight and Lost City. I promise you, if that was like the difference in second and first place, Nick Cage would have been like, here's $11,000. Just buy me $11,000 worth of tickets. Let a bunch of hobos enjoy the movie for free or something. Like, he would have done something charity-wise like that just to jump into first. But 6th to 7th, I guess they'll leave that alone. Memory was opening film this weekend. That was your Liam Neeson. I saw this thing was sitting at about 18% Rotten Tomato. But hey, $3.1 million. Listen, there's a lane for that. We talked about it last week. There's a lane for these Liam Neeson films. They're just so copy and paste. And people love them. People like it. It has to have gotten to the point for a lot of moviegoers who are just like, all right, I've seen it. Like, I would just prefer to go see something different. As much as I enjoy Liam Neeson, as much as I enjoy that style of a film, But hey, listen, 2,500 theaters they threw that thing in. It still made $3 million. Enough people liked it to go check that out. Ninth place, Father Stu, $2 million, and then Morbius rounds out your top 10 with $1.5 million. So there you go. The Bad Guys comes away with $16 million. Next week, the bad guys will not repeat as your number 1 seed. We will talk about that into going forward as to who is going to win next weekend. It will not be the bad guys. I guarantee you that at this moment. That shall wrap up the box office. Let's move right along onto the casting couch. Casting, we had a couple of good ones. We had a couple of really good ones, actually. Zach Morris himself, he's going to be in an NBC pilot. This is a drama. This is like a missing person drama. Shanola Hampton is his co-star. His real name in real life is Mark Paul Gosselaar. Sorry. Anywho, Mark Paul Gosselaar jumping in with Shanola Hampton as the leads in an NBC. See, when I say it, it sounds like you're WNBC. How many old school, Craig, you're not allowed to answer. How many old school Take Two podcast listeners remember when we used to close the show with us doing our impression of See, we did WTTP, because WTTP taking off of what movie? There we go. Trivia time. What movie is that from? WNBC. When I say it, I hear just like you. We're saying the same thing. What movie is that from? And how many old school Take Two podcast listeners remember us doing that at the end? Anywho, just for fun, I should try and find that audio file. Oh my God. Those are the good old days of the TTP. Those were the good old days. I'm not going to lie. I reminisce about those days. Anywho, Fleischman is in trouble. We talked about this last week. This is a Lizzie Kaplan project. She is producing and also lead in this. You got Adam Brody, Claire Danes, Jesse Eisenberg, all attached to this. They have added Christian Slater, and they have also added Josh Radnor to the cast. Interestingly enough, so when you read Variety, when you read these, Deadline, any of these articles, and you folks probably know this, usually it'll say, it'll say somebody in there, Jesse Eisenberg, and then in parentheses, Batman v Superman, it'll put a movie that they were in or most notable for, and it'll put at least one film that they are most notably known for. So I'm reading it, and it says Josh Radnor, parentheses, Hunters. Now, Hunters was a series that came out, I think, last year. Pretty good. Pacino's in that. It was a good series, and he did a great job in it. But I'm sorry. Josh Radnor needs to have How I Met Your Mother, even if they just abbreviate it to the HIYM thing, whatever. Hunters? Really? That's what you put in there? I'm curious if there's any politics in there, if there's any marketing that's involved. Like if Variety was the one writing it, they are owned by HBO. This actor was in an HBO product, even though said actor is more popular for a Showtime film. We're gonna we're gonna list the movie from HBO. Does that make sense? None of those factors are here with Josh Radnor, but that's what I'm trying to get at. Like maybe there's an actual reason there, or was the gentleman or lady who were typing up the article just like, oh, he was good at Hunters, so boop, boop, boop. And we're going to do Hunters because I don't want to write out the words How I Met Your Mother. Anywho, wow, that was a rant out of nowhere. Spidey and His Amazing Friends. My son loves this show. It's actually really solid. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. It's on Disney+. Season 2 is filming now, if you will. It's animated. And they have cast Iron Man to be in Season 2 of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. And the voice for this, none other than the John Stamos. Oh, baby. I just can't wait. I really just can't wait for the line when he flies in. He's like, and I am Iron Man. Have mercy. Right? Huh? No? Okay. Moving on. Stamos is going to be Iron Man. Moving forward. Fall of the House of Usher. We mentioned this last week. Frank Langella got the boot for conduct unbecoming on set. Heard he was getting a little handsy with some people, a little rude to people. They have cast Bruce Greenwood, a solid actor, much younger than Langella too, to replace him in his role. So they're going to have to go back and do some reshoots, obviously, and then he's going to finish that out. And then lastly, Isle of the Dead. Okay. I stopped watching Walking Dead. Negan, but then the tiger attacked Negan when the one girl killed herself on purpose, spoiler, in the coffin and turned into a zombie, and there was a big brouhaha. That season-ish was when I fell off to a degree. And honestly, I didn't fall off because I wasn't liking it. It was one of those where I forgot that it started back up kind of thing. 7 eps got under my belt where I was like, ugh, I need to really catch up. And then I got to the point where I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm just not going to catch up 14 episodes. And then, of course, we heard that it wasn't fantastic, blah, blah, blah. Any hoot. That's where I left off. But after that point, Negan and Maggie were not pals for some obvious reasons. I don't want to give away a spoiler here for something that happened 5 years ago. But apparently they have both been cast. Gaius Charles has been cast as the lead in Isle of the Dead. This is a spin-off show involving Negan and Maggie, Jeffrey D. Morgan, and Lauren Cohen, and they are in Manhattan, and they are walking this post-apocalyptic Manhattan island. That sounds like a cool premise, It sounds like a cool premise. Maybe Will Smith will show up. But I didn't know that Negan and Maggie were now pals, or are they not? And they're just forced into the scenario? I don't know. Where are my Walking Dead people at? I mean, I don't. Anywho. Okay, that's it for the casting couch. We're done with the casting news. Let's go on to the Hollywood news. Justin Lin has directed the last couple of Fast and the Furious films, but he's not directing Fast 10 anymore. Due to creative differences, was the phrase they used. He's out. He's not going to be directing Fast 10. The interesting part here is, A, they'd already started filming. They're about a week or two into filming. B, what creative differences at this junction in the filming could they have come across? You've got to imagine Vin Diesel is very involved in this creative difference process. So what happened? Or are they just using that as a phrase for he got in a fight with somebody and wanted to bounce? I don't know. Either way, it's just intriguing to me. What could have happened? What difference could there have been that they're just like, you know what? No, we're good to go. I'm out of here. I'm leaving. I've directed the last couple. I'm good. I appreciate it. Thanks for all your time. I don't know. Either way, he's out of Fast 10. We don't have a replacement director just yet. As soon as we get that, we'll have that announced by next week, I assume. If not before you guys actually listen to this. But either way, new director for Fast and the Furious Part 10. F10. F10. Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. This was a prequel book written by the same lady that wrote the Hunger Games series. Super popular books. Probably super popular until the last one movies. They're doing this prequel. The prequel, it sounds very intriguing. It actually sounds very interesting to me. I was in on the Hunger Games. I liked them. I actually did not see that final fourth film. The third book kind of does fall off. Wasn't in love with that and what have you. But either way, this prequel sounds good because it's following President Snow pre-becoming president, like back when he was younger. This is pre-Katniss. This might be like dividings of the districts and what have you, it's something to that degree. I've never read the book. Anybody out there that's read the book, if I'm way off here, but it sounds very intriguing. Either way, same director that did the last 3 films for the Hunger Games franchise, Francis Lawrence, is going to be directing this, and it will drop November 17th, 2023. So if you're very interested in that world, there you go. All right, something that I'm not on board with because we're just probably going to get too much. Same thing with the Hunger Games, right? They've broken that last book into 2 films. They weren't the only ones. Potters did that. Plenty of other franchises have done this. Wicked. They're making my favorite onstage Broadway musical into a film. We've talked about this in the past. They have decided they're going to break it into 2 parts. 2 films for Wicked. What this means is they're going to flesh out some characters, okay? And there are characters to flesh out. There truly, truly are. Outside of Elphaba and outside of Linda with a G, they're gonna go deeper, probably into the wizard, his backstory. They're gonna go deeper into some of the other characters, like the professor before he gets turned into an animal, like all sorts of things of that nature. Obviously, they're going to flesh those things out. Okay, I get it. And maybe that'll give it more depth and more heart, but I loved it as is. I like it as is, and now we're going to get two films. I'm wondering if the final version of film 1 is going to be Defy Gravity, and then boom, go to black. And then part 2 is now that she's defied gravity, because that is actually how the play goes from Act 1 to Act 2. Defying gravity. You're welcome, everybody. Okay, producers, the Broccoli folk, the people in charge of 007 James Bond, have said that it's going to be a minute before they announce who is replacing Daniel Craig, which is intriguing because there was that little push, that little rumor that maybe they were going to drop that news on Oscar Sunday at the telecast. They had, a whole tribute to Bond, which I thought they kind of dropped the ball on, to be honest. There's some people rumored saying, they're going to come out and tell us at the Oscars, which would have been phenomenal. That would have been fantastic. Now they're coming out saying, actually, it's going to be a minute. We're going to be a minute. Maybe they're waiting until Idris Elba is just honestly too old. Like, sorry, Idris, you are now 55. We can't sign you on. I mean, sure, Idris Elba will still be like, all right, just give me 2 movies. I'll knock it out. I don't care if I'm 55. Any hoots. But, okay, so I want to circle back to Jeffrey D. Morgan he mentioned there were another actress who decided to leave the Isle of the Dead spin-off show, and it was mainly due to toxic fandom. People were upset that she was cast to be inside the show, and he went off. And this is yet another one going off on toxic fandom. And I think we have a serious push here going on for people, celebs, coming out, telling some of these toxic fans to kiss their bumper. And I'm all for it, because it's one thing to be passionate. You know, I host a podcast. I'm obviously passionate about my thoughts towards a lot of these films. And you guys listening are obviously passionate too, because you wouldn't be listening to a movie podcast if you were not. So it's great. That's phenomenal to be passionate about your fandom for whatever movies you do and don't like. But to push it to the point where you make an actor or an actress walk away from a project, give up a job, not make money, not earn their living, and at the end of the day, not create art that they wanted to create because you just don't agree with their casting, or you don't agree with some of their choices that maybe they didn't even make. Maybe it was the writer or producers, and you don't even know those answers. I would love to see an even stronger push to get rid of that section of toxic fandom. I mean, we got a gentleman that now owns Twitter, and folks all over the world are worried that he can regulate. One thing I would love to see him regulate, if some toxic fan comes in there, boot him out, baby. Ban him. Ban him from social media, all platforms. If you're going to be a ding-dong about a casting or about an actor and actress getting a job. And we went back to this last week where they were talking about actors, you know, people getting it wrong with these castings, and look what happened afterwards. Any toxic fan that comes out with a casting or anything like this that says they don't like it just has no clue what they're talking about. And I wish the rest of us would just ignore these trolls and just people that are out there. Just goodbye. I'm not even going to listen to you. Unfortunately, we don't. And sometimes it's hard. It's hard for someone to say something so absurd that you can't just respond with, you're an idiot, or no, you're just wrong, that's not accurate, blah, blah, blah. And then it turns into a whole shebang. Either way, I'm ranting once again here on the fact that I fully agree with Jeffrey D. Morgan. He went nuts on toxic fandom. I love that he did that, and more celebs need to do that, because we need less actors and actresses leaving projects because of this, more actors and actresses supporting each other and the industry to make these projects regardless of what knuckleheads with their laptop in their mom's basement can say. Lastly, CinemaCon, I wanted to wrap up just a couple of things in there. You know, we got DC. There wasn't a ton of Marvel. We'll talk about that in a minute. Like, some release dates got moved. But non-comic booky stuff, the Avatars, we did find out that those will be standalone films. So each film will be its own complete story. Kind of what people felt the original Avatar was. It was like, why are we making sequels? That was a movie fine by itself. That's what we're going to get for the next 19 Avatars that they're making. Okay, neato. I'll see if I want to invest my time into that. I did hear from some people that were at CinemaCon, and they saw some footage that nothing was really mind-blowing. And the whole crux of Avatar when it came out 37 years ago was how mind-blowing the filming and effects were. Maybe not so much anymore. I don't know. Did the technology catch up? Hope not. Either way, I'll be honest. I'm in on seeing the next Avatar movie. I enjoyed the first film. I wasn't over the moon like so many people were, and they went and saw it 17 times in the theaters. But I'm intrigued to see where they're going to go with some of the characters. So that'll be a thing. I don't know if I'm pot committed to seeing the next 19 projects. It's not 19, I know that, but I think you guys understand where I'm at. Okay, a couple of fours. Hey, 4 is the number of the day. I wish this was episode 294. John Wick 4 confirmed. Expendables 4 confirmed, and they even showed a little bit of footage from Expendables 4. I mean, Expendables 4 is maybe, the Expendables franchise is maybe the ultimate, absolute ultimate, just absolutely turn your brain off and enjoy, right? Turn your brain off and enjoy. Okay, so I wanted to get a little crazy today because we only have one review. I wanted to switch things up. That's going to wrap up the Hollywood news. That's some good stuff. And now, because I knew that this episode would be also a little bit shorter, I want to kind of test you guys out a little bit, see who's paying attention type thing, and go on to our reviews. So up now is your Ozark review. This will be fun. Let's see what listeners shoot a little DM. Hey, where's the review? Oh, we move things around. And hey, listen, if you guys don't like it, we'll move back to the old way. You know, change is good, change is not good. 3-time Emmy-winning TV show. It is one of your, on IMDb, I think it's like rated top 225 all time, something to that effect, is Ozark. Season 4 just finished up. This show has been on for a little over 5 years. And what they did with the final season, they did what we were just mentioning with Hunger Games and Potter and all that, is they broke up the final season into 2 parts. I want to say Sopranos, probably someone did it before that, but I remember Sopranos was most infamous for breaking up that final season. So many folks are so salty. Like, what? You're going to only give me 7 eps and then make me wait 3 months and then give me the other one? Excuse me real quick. So, season 4 finally dropped its final 7 episodes over this past weekend. I will speak non-spoilery to lead off, and then we will get into speaking freely, and I will put that in the timestamps going on for folks who have yet to see the finale of Ozark. So, season 1 of Ozark was fantastic. It hooked me immediately. I thought it was, it hooked me when you saw Laura Linney banging some other dude, and then it's Jason Bateman's wife, and then but there's still to get, like, he finds out, then that guy gets killed, thrown off the building, and you're just like, what are we doing here, Harry? This is nuts. And then Jason Bateman's best buddy gets immediately it hooked you. It was one of those shows that Ep1 you're in. You're like, holy crap, this is what's happening in Ep1. Let's go. Then it just built this world, this phenomenal world down in the Ozarks. And you meet the Langmore family, who, book by its cover style family, where you see them and they live in trailers and they're loud and they're profanity laced and all that. So you're just like, I could think nothing less of these people. They're scum of the earth. But then you learn about them and you're way wrong. Like, these people are actually smart and stuff like, and they leaned into that. The Langmores, like, are people that you would totally judge on first glance, but you don't know what you're talking about type thing. Then you have the Snell family. These are the rich people. They own all of town, but they're shady MFers too. And they probably get judged, but then they own town because they have the most money and they have the most land. And why do they have that? Because of drugs, and they're dealing with that. So now the Bird family moves in, and they're getting in everybody's way because they're just trying to make some cash too, and they're also doing it forced to do so. So the premise of Ozarks, you guys already know that, but I loved that building process that they put in there. It was almost like 3 different families was this world that they all live amongst and live in with this area, in this area of the earth. So it surprised you, the show would shock you multiple times as to who was going to die, when they were going to die, how did they die. There was, multiple people would get shot by other people you weren't expecting. Darlene Snell might have been the leader of that one early on season 1. You're just like, what the, and a lot of like, why did you kill that guy? Why did you kill that girl? And for what reason? And then now, like, it seemed like every time 2 steps forward, the Birds had a plan, things are going well, someone would do something on their own accord that would just totally muck it all up. And had they just had a quick conversation of like, hey man, let's go this route, then they wouldn't have mucked it all up, And so many times that seemed to just keep happening to these people. So I absolutely adored the show. Season 2 was fine. I do remember after season 2, reviewing it on the show, thinking they're booked for a 3rd season. It's hard to see where they're going to go. They have a boat that they're turning into a casino. This is weird. I'm not totally sure where the show is going to go. I liked season 2, but it wasn't as good as season 1. And I was very kid glove with season 3. And then season 3 was phenomenal. Absolutely just fantastic. The way they started laundering money, they get involved in the Mexican drug cartel even more hardcore. We go down to Mexico. We see, like, that whole situation just blew up, and it made it for phenomenal storytelling, including characters taking massive steps. They introduced us to Ruth Langmore, a character who should forever live in TV character history as one of the greatest characters ever written for TV. This character I'm talking about specifically was just absolutely fantastic. You couldn't take your eyes off of her. And she would walk to the beat of her own drum at all times, but also she was so smart that she knew how to play every single angle while still having a heart of gold at the end of the day. She was still a sensitive lady. Like, she still wanted what was best for her family and her people at the same time. Like Ruth Langmore is an absolute phenomenal character. Season 3 really launched thanks to Wendy Bird. And this is a conversation maybe some of us could have. If you want to write down, we live in a society where, men, evil men that we've had, Tony Soprano and Scarface and just the litany of evil mobsters, evil, but I think there's a list of evil women, female characters, that we need to start really paying more attention to in the grand scheme of things. And we should probably do this. We should have some guests on that do like your top 5 female evil characters, because Wendy Bird has to rank up there. You've got Carmela Soprano, you've got Cersei, you've got Khaleesi. I know they're from the same show, but still, Wendy Bird has got, because this lady, she just took over this show. She went to a next level of just pure, I'm getting what I want. I'm doing whatever I can to get that. The only thing she didn't do to get what she want was smoochy booch stuff, which was interesting. And she had opportunities in there. And I think that, there was even an episode where the other congressman guy even brought that up. Like, that's not what's happening here. We're quid pro quo. You're not just going to hook up here, and that's why I'm giving you this stuff. No thanks, hard pass. And I thought that was intriguing because the show opens up with her just cheating on Marty Bird. But they never went that route again, and I actually appreciated them for that. It was not using her body; it was completely using her mind, and that was brilliant. That was actually brilliant writing, and I was glad that they stuck with that route. 3, you introduced her brother, Ben, into season 3, and that was masterful because, again, as soon as they get ahead, as soon as they start to have secure footing, as soon as they start to find a way where Marty Bird starts to find his way out of the Ozarks, out of this lifestyle, you throw another wrench into the pile, and then what happens? These things start getting mucked up. And then that's when we learn that Wendy Bird's the most evil of all time because she's okay with killing off her own brother. Nuts. Absolutely nuts. Great stuff. Season 4, now we're wrapping things up. I mean, again, season 3 ended with a murder of someone you weren't expecting to get murdered, and you're just like, what the crap? How many times were the Birds in such a bad spot, but the right person for them that needed to die died not at their hands? It was like, oh, okay, thank you for killing that person because they were in my way, Anywho, now we get to season 4, and it just, you knew it was wrapping. The best thing about it, and I've said this many times before, is I love when a show knows that it's done and knows that it's going to wrap before they start writing it. I think that is the best way to go, and not every show gets that opportunity. We will be talking in DC discussion a little bit later, shows that are not being given that opportunity. They knew this, so they knew that they could now wrap this thing up how they wanted to wrap it up. They knew that they could write 14 eps instead of 10, so they got to break it up into multiple seasons, if you will, here for this, or a part 1, part 2, and it did not suffer. I thought season 4 was fantastic. Messing around with the drug cartel, messing around with the Mexican heads of the cartel, Navarro, his sister, his nephew, all these people that you don't know who you can trust, and the answer is none of them, and everyone is out for themselves. Then you introduce business people that actually have a lot of money that you can now funnel the money through. Everything was so complicated, so intricate, but at the same time, at the end of the day, you just had these characters who owned their lane and what they needed to get done, despite everyone else around them trying to mess it up. You had a step forward with both the children, Charlotte and what the heck was the kid's name? Why can't I think? Jonah. I couldn't think of the boy's name. I did find it funny, season 4, because I mentioned this in a review of part 1. They probably thought, we've got to wrap this thing up because both Charlotte, played by Sophia Hublitz, and then Skylar Gartner's playing Jonah, specifically him, they grew. And it was only supposed to be like no time gap between season 3 and season 4. There was 0 time gap in there. Yet he obviously hit a nice little puberty growth spurt. And I know, especially in the back half, part 2 of season 4, 3 different characters mentioned, like, wow, you really shot up. Oh my, look at you looking like a little young man all of a sudden. I wonder if the writers like, we should probably write something in there just to kind of acknowledge that he definitely hit a bit of a growth spurt from season 3 to 4. Either way, folks, I'm going to get into the spoiler section in 1 second here. But first, I need to fully recognize the acting, directing, and writing. The writing of the show is just fantastic. It really was. There were some phenomenal one-liners in here. There were some phenomenal think piece segments in the show that just you're huh, and you're what, and you're wow, and just great writing across top to bottom across the board. And it seemed to be a very collaborative effort, including Jason Bateman and a couple of other phenomenal writers. Bill Jabicki and Mark Williams were the ones that created this, and then Bateman jumped on board, and they really took off. It was absolutely fantastic. Speaking of Bateman with the directing, he jumped into direct. He did all of first season and then some other episodes throughout, and then he wound up doing the final episode as well. The only thing that I don't like about it is he did such a phenomenal job. I don't want him to now be one of those actors that then just switches to directing, because I love Jason Bateman as an actor, and I know he has a lane that he's phenomenal in, and that's pretty much his lane, minus the show. But that's I keep doing some directing. But Jason, don't take away from how phenomenal you are as an actor, because I love his comedy and I think he's phenomenal. So that's the only part where I'm like, wait, don't be too good at directing, because I want you as an actor. They even talked Laura Linney into doing some directing one episode, which I saw an interview with her. She was more scared out of her mind than whatever, but she did a great job. And then Amanda Marsalis, her directing, she did about 6 or 7 eps, and I felt like they were eps that wowed me, where the final scene of that ep, I was like, whoa, or wow, it just hit you with that, oh man, at the end of it. Like those eps on Netflix that make you click play on the next one, right? Netflix is so good at ending an ep, making you want to be like, hey, let's watch another. Hey, let's watch another. And I felt like her eps were those eps, because every time I'm like, whoa. And then I'd be like, directed by Amanda Marsalis. I was like, what the? This is insane. This lady is just dominating. And I actually wasn't too familiar with her. And I went through, she's done a ton of TV and a ton of like 1 to 2 eps. This is like kind of the most work that she's done on one show for the most part. And she needs to do more, because she's a phenomenal director. Acting. Bateman already mentioned he won Emmy for his acting as Marty Byrde. He just did a phenomenal job. And his character arc from day one to the final day was fantastic. I mean, in the final season, you see him actually physically hitting somebody, finally reaching that boiling point, and just this is a character that he portrayed taking it from all angles. And he was able to just stay the course and stay. And I wonder if other actors could not have done that, because he has that very deadpan type of delivery, and it's hilarious in his comedy. But then in this, he needed to keep it so that he was level-headed the entire time in every situation they were put in. And I thought Bateman did. This is my favorite of some of Bateman's stuff, right? Horrible Bosses, and then this. And it's just the way he was able to be scared and then hide his being scared, and then eventually reveal to you what it is he is scared of as a father and as a business owner and as just trying to stay alive on his own end. The children were great. They grew, they weren't given a lot to do early on. And then as they grew, they were given some serious scenes. And I thought both, Skylar Gardner and Sophia Hublitz, they did a fantastic job. Lisa Emery as Darlene Snell. Oh my goodness. This lady, throw this other lady up there in the female evil characters of all time, because she was just a piece of garbage. And Lisa Emery just did I hope did a fantastic. Maybe that's her in real life. I've never met her. I doubt it though. She probably seems like a lovely lady. Anywho, her character of Darlene Snell was just garbage. And Lisa Emery did a fantastic job as her. Man, I don't know which one I want to go to next, because they're both so fantastic. I'll go Laura Linney, because Laura Linney we've already known is a national treasure. She is just fantastic. There are a litany of films where she just does a fantastic job. She has a career where she's in a litany of films where she's just in it, i.e. Love Actually, right? And she just does a great job. And you're like, oh yeah, that is Laura Linney in that. And she just does a great job in that character. But then she has other things where she's the lead and she just dominates. And that was her here, where season 3, she just took over the show. Wendy Byrde was the show at that point. And season 4 didn't slow down whatsoever. And oh my glory. There are a couple of scenes, especially in part 2, where Laura Linney was just dominating. You're just watching it like, let me rewind. I just want to watch that scene again. I just want to watch her dominate as an actress once again, please. Lastly, best for last, Julia Garner. Nobody knew about Julia Garner going into this. Credit to the filmmakers and producers to hire her for this role. And I cannot wait to see what she does next. And I've seen interviews and stuff with her. That's not her hairdo, and that's not her accent, and that's not her. I've seen interviews where she has said she struggled with playing Ruth Langmore. That's her. Ruth Langmore, because that's not her personality, that outgoing personality in any capacity. So, credit her as an actress to be able to play that. I mean, and she also, I saw one interview where she's like, she's not a big profanity user. And Ruth Langmore sure is. She had some one-liners that were fun, just hilarious, just phenomenal. And they just fit the character. Linney and Bateman were well aware of their acting abilities, and they did not shy away from it. They gave us even more how phenomenal they are. But Julia Garner is the one that I think everyone should walk away with thinking, wowzers, what is she doing next? Put her in my project. Can I get her in every movie that is being made? Because she just owned every section of that role. Her character's arc from season to season. And Julia Garner was just fantastic. So, anywho, when we're all done, I'm going to be looking up her IMDb just to see what she's got coming next. I keep doing these casting notices. What's up with Julia Garner next? Okay, final thoughts before I get into some spoilery things for Ozark. I Actually, well, yeah, because there are a few things I do want to bring up. Hey, guys, I love the show. I absolutely love the show. Some things that happened to the characters at the end of part 4, part 2 of season 4 were devastating, but they held true to the show. And I make this comparison. I must have Game of Thrones on the brain because I keep bringing it up, but I think the reason a lot of people didn't like Game of Thrones is because it didn't hold true to what it did the first 6 seasons, where you did not know what was going to happen. You did not know who was going to die. Nobody was safe. And the final season of Thrones was more fan servicey, where people were safe. Not here. Not in Ozark. Ozark held true to what it was. And did it suck to see some certain characters die and not make it? Yeah. Yes. There were certain characters in there that I was super rooting for that didn't make it, and it was devastating to see them go. But it held true to the show, and I credit the show for doing that. And will it make some people mad? Yeah. I've already spoken with people about it who are furious, mad at the show. Why would you kill off this character, that character, that character? But it held true to what Ozark has done from day one, and I very, very much appreciate it. That is why it will stay high in my ranking, all-time shows, high in my ranking of all-time shows, because I just absolutely adored it. I absolutely adored the world that they brought us into, everything they gave us from beginning to end. So, all right, spoilers coming up for the rest of the way out, and this will be really quick, anybody, because I just kind of rambled on with the earlier stuff. But spoilers the rest of the way out for Ozark, the finale, coming up in a 3 and a 2 and a 1, and spoiler section for Ozarks. Maybe we can take a little swig of my drink, give you guys even more time to fast forward. Check those timestamps. Devastating was the word, but season 4, part 1 literally ended with Ruth Langmore screaming, "You're going to have to effing kill me." That should have told us right there that she was going to die, right? That should have told us. And I thought about it post thinking about the show. And another thing, I could have said this in the non-spoiler, the show has been sticking with me for the last day and a half since I finished watching it until now recording time. And that speaks volumes to a show to just stay with you and your thought process as you're still breaking down this character, that character, this character, like why, how, hit. So we should have kind of known the writing was on the wall for her. Devastating the way that happened. Claire freaking snitches. Claire snitches and covers her ass. Claire snitches and covers the bird's ass. Like, at the end of the day, the birds got away with so much where they just should have been dead. They just should have been out. And so many times they just made it. Prime example, the car wreck that we see in the beginning of the season where the entire family is in this massive, massive car wreck, right? And all 4 of them crawl out of it, catch a cab. I feel the car wreck was a bit of a MacGuffin tease and I get why they did it. They wanted to show you that the family will survive together, okay? But could, like, Jonah have broken an arm, maybe? Like, could somebody have sprained an ankle? Like, none of them had, like, bumps, bruises, cut, stitches, nothing. They crawled out of that thing, hugged, caught a cab home. So, a little anticlimactic with the van crash. I get what they were trying to do. Or what they did. I get the message they were sending there, that this family is going to survive. And then Laura Linney straight up says those words later on. Wendy Bird straight up says, "Oh, no, this is proof that our family is going to make it through it all." So that writing there was a little bit on the nose, and the whole van sequence a little bit on the nose. But I was just, it teases you. Is Wendy dead? Is Wendy dead? And it teases you long enough to make you think, holy crap, this is how they kill her off. This is insane. She dies just from a random ass car accident. But no. So that was a little for me at the end of the day. I understand they wanted to show the family's togetherness and that the family will survive together. And it then feeds you forward to the final scene where then the family finally does come full circle. Jonah with the gun, et cetera, gives a little wink, a little nod to both Jason Bateman and both Wendy and Marty. And they both then smile at him because they know this is their family. And they are now going to become the Rockefellers, the Kennedys. They are going to become this big, well-known, badass family that's going to, run the country at some point. They got everything that they wanted and then some, right? The whole process here was Marty Byrde just trying to get away from these people that were forcing him to launder money. On the side, he was going to put away some cash to have stability for his family going forward, but then he wanted to get out. Wendy Byrde says, no, I'm going to make this where we are these top level, debutante type people where we are known in all the circles, Congress, Senate, all your big time politics. That's going to be us, baby. and we're going to live in Chicago, and we're going to live the high life and foundations and all that. And they wind up succeeding. It sucked that Ruth died. It really does. You know who's the beneficiary of that all, though, is Rachel. Because Ruth goes and grabs her and brings her in. Now she has her name on the casino. Not as much as she was originally, because they scrubbed Ruth's thing. But she has her name right there on the casino. She probably can have a claim to Ruth's land, because she was kind of living there. I'm sure she could step in and be like, can I have it? Or can I at least buy it cheap? Because they're already building that project. She's already probably able to then take over the finances. So she might get that nice house that Ruth was about to build with the pool, who put the pool next to a lake, and then also owns the casino, where she's just making money hand over fist. So she's the one that benefited the most out of this, besides the birds. But she did it with no blood on her hands. So, well, no, she killed Nelson. Disregard. Either way. So, good for her. The Snell estate is also available. Anybody can just go buy that big, huge, beautiful house and all that land. She might as well swoop in and buy that while she's at it and employ some people. She made out of it, as far as not being evil and underhanded, she probably made it out on top the best. I loved a lot, the tension between Navarro, and his son. I enjoyed the scene with Ruth when she kills the nephew. I can't think of his right name. When it's just like, that's it. She's like, F it. I couldn't do it, but now, no, my mind's made up. You get him here, and then she does not hesitate. Just whack. Done. It was awesome. Good stuff. I loved everything that they did there. There's little nitpicky things, i.e. the car crash. That was probably the only part that I didn't actually like going through that series. And then just the way they wrapped everything up, that's it. That's their family. 5 years they've been at it. They did everything they could to get out. Finally, they made it. Kids are grown. They're going to move back, go to school. Wendy gets rid of her dad for the most part. They get out of the way from any issues with Ben, obviously, because Jonah then kills the private detective. I'm looking forward to, I will say this right now, I'm already looking forward to 10 years from now, we go back to Ozark and give me a movie. Just give me a 90-minute movie revisiting these characters. Where are they now? Does Camilla, is she just running things? She's the top drug cartel of all time because she's doing it with the FBI as long as she keeps feeding them cash. And at the same time, then the birds are running their clean, legitimate foundation, and that's it. Or maybe they have Sophia, or Charlotte, Sophia Hublitz, and Jonah 10 years later. Now they've taken over a different operation. By the way, speak to the casting. Sophia Hublitz as Charlotte, she was 100% a mini Laura Linney. I was wondering if she even changed her voice patterns or anything in the especially part 2 of the season. She sounded just like Laura Linney throughout that. I was like, holy cow, you 100% believe that they are mother-daughter. 100% believe that. So well done on that casting, especially to see that 6 years ago, when the kid was only 16, 15 years old, something to that effect. So great on the casting director there as well. I'm done here, guys. Ozark, I absolutely adored it. I absolutely loved it. High praise from me. Could nitpick 1 or 2 or 3 little things here or there, but I don't want to, because it gave me Wendy Bird, it gave me Ruth Langmore as characters, and they are fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Julia Garner, can't wait to see what you do next. Hey, come on the show. We can chat about whatever you want. Or just yell at me. Just come on and cuss me out. All right, that's going to wrap up Ozark. We're going to be jumping now into your DC discussion. Welcome back, time stampers. Welcome back, those who didn't want to be spoiled on Ozarks. I hope you guys are finishing things up and watching Ozark. We're going to talk a little DC. Let me know, guys, 667-365-8253 or at Take Two Podcasts. Slide into those DMs, whatever. Thoughts on changing the show? Reviews later, reviews earlier? Does it make you wait? Do you want to get it over with? Easier to fast forward? What have you? You guys, let me know. I am in your hands. I'm a man of the people, a man of the listener. I know that was a very lengthy review, but it was four seasons that I wanted to break down. The rest of the show, not so long. DC discussion. Batwoman, 3 seasons, canceled. Legends of Tomorrow, canceled, 7 seasons. Major announcements coming out of the CW this week that they're canceling a bunch of their projects, getting rid of them. Superman and Lois survives, and as it should. It's really a good show. It really is a good show. We got a couple more eps coming up. I may have mentioned last week that it was finishing up soon because CW sucks. Here's one thing they suck at, is giving you the direct breakdown of when episodes are going to be released and how many of them per season there are. If you went to IMDb right now, you wouldn't know how many episodes are remaining left for X, Y, and Z shows on their network. Any hoot. But there's a couple episodes left, Superman and Lois. It's going really well. But they've canceled Batwoman. I think that writing was on the wall. It was not well received when they made the change. Not a lot of folks were loving season 1. I did, I was in on it, curious where they were going to go. Some characters, very curious when they replaced the actress playing Batwoman. How were they going to explain that? What were they going to do? Then they were going to bring her back, and I didn't watch a minute. I watched one episode of Batwoman season 2, but then they're done. So season 3, 3 seasons, then they're done. So they had their little run. More importantly, Legends of Tomorrow, man, it found a lane. It really did. It found a lane that a lot of people really enjoyed it and had a very good time with it. It was wacky. It was off the wall. But folks really endured to that. And so surprising that they didn't let it go out. There are rumors to give it a HBO Max movie to wrap things up, or to give it an HBO Max can pick it up and give it, 5 eps, 4 eps. Just let it wrap things up. I'd be all for that. I know other Legends of Tomorrow diehards probably would want to just let it wrap up. That's it. Let it try and wrap as best as you can. As best as you can wrap up superheroes, and like, it's hard to wrap up a superhero series where now I'm not a superhero anymore, or I died, or, like Arrow, whatever. So, cancellations about, please excuse me. And speaking of other cancels, we're trying to get Amber Heard, man, out. Trying to get her off of Aquaman. So apparently they have cut some scenes, and her scenes to begin with weren't many, and there is like less than 10 minutes of Amber Heard as Mira in Aquaman 2. Not a lot of runtime for what I think most of us thought was going to be a main character or an elevated character going forward. There is a massive push for Emilia Clarke to replace. Wow, we are Game of Thronesy today. For Emilia Clarke to replace her, which I'm all for. I think that's a great replacement. I think Emilia Clarke's a great actress. I'm in. Sign me up. And at the very least, I don't think Emilia Clarke will poop on anybody's bed sheets. That's going to wrap up the DC discussion, and now we're going to move on to the Marvel Minute. Apparently, wow, hit puberty. Apparently, Kevin Feige and Marvel have been sitting down, and they have literally storyboarded the next 10 years of Marvel projects. And I 100% believe it, because I 100% believe at some point, it may not have been before Iron Man 2 happened, right? Iron Man came out as a success, and now we've got other movies coming. It had to have been in that area. I highly doubt they did this before Iron Man dropped. Maybe they did. Maybe they planned that from the start. But my feeling is sometime after Iron Man was a success, a word I cannot say, they sat down and said, here's our thoughts. Let's get these characters introduced, those characters. Here's what we'll do. Bing, Infinity War, Endgame, and then we'll start, we'll have phases, and this is how we'll introduce these. So we know they had to have done that at some point for the last 10 years and those 20 films. Now it looks like they've now sat back down. I also wonder if they sat down already, pre-Endgame, sat down, mapped out the next 10 years. Here's where we're going to go going forward. Obviously, we don't have these characters. They either died or got old, whatever. But then COVID hit. Then COVID delayed things. Then they had to release Black Widow. Then they had to tie in some TV shows. So I bet you they sat down already, mapped things out, and now they've had to re-sit down and map things out. And they're like, all right, now that we think we're out of the pandemic, hopefully, and at least going forward, now we can just map out the next 10 years and get us into 2032, 2035 range to end up these next 2 phases. And maybe people will jump on and stick with it. We shall see. Movement of some of said Phase 4 releases. Ant-Man was supposed to be July 28th, 2023. Marvel's was supposed to be February 17th, 2023. They have swapperooed. So now you will get Ant-Man Quantumania in February 17th, 2023. So less than a year. And then the Marvels, is it the Marvels or Marvels? Either way, Captain Marvel Part 2 has now been boosted to July. So a little over a year before you get that. So July 28th for that. And then lastly, this is not good news. John Watts has left directing Fantastic Four. And I know that was along in the creative process. That was far along in the creative process. And John Watts is a great comic book director. So that's a bummer. That's a bit of a bummer. Also because he has experience with Spider-Man. So you had worlds there where you were excited that he could have them collide, what have you. So it's a bummer. I did not see why. Probably creative differences. But either way, he left. Okay, we're done with the show. We're wrapping things up. That is done with Marvel Minute, and it's time to go forward. Moon Knight wraps up on Wednesday, and we will be all done. I will have that full series review with spoilers and whatnot next week on episode 291. I will give you this spoiler ahead of time. Not madly in love with Moon Knight. Kind of slow. Kind of, dare I say, boring. I will say episode 5 was more intriguing. It did kind of boost. I will say that we talked about this last week. Episode 6 is going to be the shortest runtime of any series, of the Marvel series on Disney Plus. I wonder if that's because, I don't know. I don't know. It hasn't been great. Either way, the big movie coming in the theaters is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This here is going to launch pad us forward into those said 10 years of Marvel. What do we do with these characters? What characters are alive? What characters are back? Do we have mutants? Is Professor, better than a doctor, Professor X involved? Do we have the Illuminati? That last trailer that we got, they mentioned the Illuminati, so that's pretty much confirmed. Will we see Spider-Man? Will we see Captain America? Will we see Iron Man's? Who are we going to see? We will find out, and we will have a full review next week, episode 291. I already have my tickets in hand for Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. I will tell you this. The wife wanted to go, and she was like, well, I haven't seen the first Doctor Strange. And I was thinking, I don't think she has to see the first Doctor Strange. I don't feel like that's a thing, that you need to see Doctor Strange Part 1 to understand anything that happens in this one, minus Rachel McAdams. Outside of her saying, well, who's that lady? Because McAdams was only in that movie, and I could then just whisper, that was his girlfriend. And we're good to go. I don't know. If we get a chance this week, we will rewatch. She will first time watch Doctor Strange, the OG, one of my least favorite films in the Marvel Universe. But either way, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, that is going to be the big review for next week, as well as Moon Knight. Other things, shows that Winning Time is almost about to wrap up. That's almost closing. So guys, if you're watching that, try and catch up as well so we can review that together in a couple of weeks. Like I mentioned, Superman Lois has a couple more weeks to go. Also, The Offer dropped its first 3 episodes over the weekend, and I'm digging it. I'm digging it so far. It's not great, but it's not bad. So I'm digging it. That's on Paramount Plus. So if anyone wants to jump on board there, we'll have 6 more weeks to go before we get a full review there. But those are some things that I am watching in the meantime. Next week's reviews, Moon Knight, Doctor Strange, will be a very Marvel-heavy show. And for you YouTube watchers, you're thinking, well, you're an idiot. You wore a Marvel sweatshirt during this episode. Should have waited. Should have thought that out, Brian. I did not. But heaven forbid I wear the same shirt more than one time back-to-back weeks, because I definitely never do that in my life. Right? Anybody else have 600 t-shirts inside their drawers, but they only wear the same 5? Episode 290. Thank you guys for listening to Take Two Podcast. Have a great night, everybody.